We are built to be social creatures, not out of sentimentality, but out of absolute biological necessity. Our brains rely on a constant feedback loop with our environment to keep us grounded. Every mundane interaction, from a brief wave to a cashier to a casual debate with a coworker, serves as a reality check. It is a subconscious sounding board that reassures our minds that what we see, feel, and think is real and rational. When you rip that sounding board away, the mind begins to eat itself. Left in a vacuum, a person's thoughts rapidly turn inward, spiraling into a toxic loop. Within days, stress hormones saturate the system. Within weeks, deep depression, obsessive patterns, and impulses take over. Eventually, the starved brain tries to protect itself the only way it knows how, by manufacturing its own data. It starts inventing sounds, shapes, and entire scenarios. Delusions and hallucinations aren't just a psychological reaction to isolation. They are the mind desperately trying to fill a terrifying, empty void. The damage goes far deeper than just a bad psychological state. Prolonged isolation physically alters the physical structure of the human brain. Chronic isolation shifts the neurological balance away from reason and entirely towards survival. The limbic system, which controls our fear and stress responses, gets thrown into overdrive, remaining hyperactive and hyperresponsive long after the isolation ends. It traps the body in a permanent, agonizing state of fight or flight. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, the very region of the brain responsible for logic, memory, decision-making, and emotional control, begins to shrink from disuse. The biological scales tip completely. Rational thought is overridden by raw, volatile emotionality, making a person highly prone to unprovoked rage, crippling panic attacks, and erratic behavior. A body quickly follows the brain down this path of decay. Without external cues, internal biological clocks shatter. Time loses all meaning, leading to severe, agonizing insomnia. The nervous system begins to misfire, triggering sudden heart palpitations, blinding migraines, dizzy spells, and an excruciating hypersensitivity to basic sensory inputs like light and sound. The digestive tract shuts down under the weight of constant cortisol spikes, wiping out the appetite and causing rapid, dangerous weight loss. You can try to fight this deterioration. You can do thousands of push-ups a day, read every book available, or fill pages with writing. But under extreme isolation, these routines are just paper shields against a tidal wave. It is precisely because of this profound, systemic destruction that the United Nations and human rights organizations worldwide categorize forced long-term isolation not as a disciplinary measure, but as torture. Yet, this exact form of torture is a formalized, everyday tool inside the correctional systems of several developed nations, most prominently the United States. On any given day, well over 100,000 people are held in what the system cleanly labels solitary confinement or restrictive housing. The reality behind those sterile terms is a concrete box, usually measuring about 6 by 9 feet, where an individual spends 22 to 24 hours a day entirely alone, often without ever seeing a single ray of natural sunlight. The supreme historical irony is that this practice was originally championed as a profound act of mercy. In the late 1700s, Quaker activists introduced solitary confinement to American prisons as a peaceful alternative to public floggings and physical mutilation. They genuinely believed that if you placed a criminal in absolute, uninterrupted silence, they would naturally reflect on their sins, find God, and experience a spiritual awakening. That desire for spiritual penitence is exactly where we get the modern word, penitentiary. The experiment was a catastrophic failure from day one. Instead of finding God, inmates found madness. The practice drew immediate, fierce condemnation from public intellectuals, authors, and even the Supreme Court. Visiting an American facility in the 19th century, Charles Dickens remarked that he held this slow, daily tampering with the mysteries of the brain to be immeasurably worse than any physical torture. While some local governments have attempted to step in and pass laws limiting the use of solitary confinement, capping stays at 15 days or banning it for juveniles and pregnant women, the system routinely finds administrative loopholes to bypass regulations, leaving the laws poorly enforced. But public safety does not require psychological destruction, and we don't have to guess if a better way exists. Other nations have already built it. Norway, for example, handles justice through a completely different lens. They incarcerate far fewer people per capita, but they invest 5 times more resources per inmate. Their facilities focus heavily on communal living, education, therapy, and robust work-release programs. By treating prisoners like human beings preparing to re-enter society rather than animals to be caged, Norway boasts one of the lowest recidivism rates on Earth. The data and the science are entirely aligned. You cannot brutalize a person into compliance and expect them to emerge as a healthy, functional neighbor. If the goal of a justice system is true rehabilitation, we have to look past our desire for vengeance and accept a fundamental human truth. We do not heal in a vacuum. We get better together.